backbone for industrial development in any country. Apart from trade and investment, both the countries should also promote tourism, as people-to-people contact is very important to build long-lasting relationships. Also, engaging in cultural exchanges like student exchange programs, holding art festivals, etc., add to the existing friendship. Friends, very interestingly, our import and exports during 2019 and 2020 were both approximately USD 45 billion respectively, taking the total trade between India and EU to around USD 90 billion. Though these numbers sound huge, they still possess huge potential for substantial improvement. Platforms like this are very important in understanding the details of any country, and I would request all the excellencies present to continue their association with the Chamber. We also invite any inbound delegations from Europe and CIS region to our Chamber and would be happy to organize B2B sessions between them and our members. I'm not going to go in any specific details and would request our esteemed guests to shed light on the various trade and investment opportunities present in the region. And before I conclude, I would once again like to thank our distinguished guests and all the ambassadors for sparing their valuable time for being present with us today. Your presence is indeed a matter of great honor and pride for us. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Purushottam ji. In fact, you indeed have set the stage and the ball rolling. You have highlighted the priority sectors, namely the energy, the environment, research and innovation, pharmaceuticals, biotechnologies, ICT, automobiles, food processing, education, and the opportunities in these sectors for Indian businessmen are absolutely massive. PhD Chamber is a synonym with the MSMEs. We have more than 150,000 members, consisting of the large, medium, small, and micro enterprises. They are the growth engines across the world. In India, the clarion call given by our Honorable Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi ji, for the Atmanirbhar Bharat, along with the ambitious target of the $5 trillion economy, cannot be achieved without the active support of the European Union and CIS in transfer of technologies, products, and joint ventures, along with the MSME. The Chamber would surely drive the SMEs to take forward the cooperation between our country, Europe, and the CIS. I now invite His Excellency, Mr. Francois, Ambassador of Belgium to India, for his distinguished address. Excellency.
Dear Mr. Dalmia, Vice President Phdcci, dear Mr. Baguer, Excellencies, dear colleagues and guests. I first want to thank the Phdcci for inviting me to this important event. As you know, Brussels is not only the capital of Belgium, but also of Europe, and thus strengthening bilateral relations between the EU and India is a topic of particular importance to Belgium. Let's begin by stating the obvious. 2020 has been a difficult year, full of frustrations and uncertainties. COVID has hit a world economy that was already facing a number of challenges. A growing trend towards protectionism and unilateralism, widespread criticism against the less desirable consequences of globalization, and a general weakening of the international rules-based order. The geopolitical landscape has also been changing fast, notably in Asia, creating tensions in one of the most dynamic regions of the world. We must now hope that with the progress of vaccination campaign, we will go back to some kind of normalcy, at least as far as the pandemic is concerned. But this will not mean the end of all economic uncertainties, and it is difficult to predict what the new economic landscape will look like. Expansionary monetary and fiscal policies, sometimes extremely, have shielded our countries from the worst economic consequences of the crisis. But there are serious questions about the longer-term consequences of these policies, especially should the interest rates start rising again. Who is going to pay for it? Some even say that the real economic crisis is still to come. There is, of course, what is probably the greatest disruption of all, the technological disruption. In the last years, we have seen deep changes in the way we produce, communicate, and consume. It is hard to keep pace with the speed of changes brought about by the new IT technologies. New concepts like artificial intelligence, blockchain, or the Internet of Things will certainly bring new opportunities, but also challenges and maybe unforeseeable risks. Let us just think about the uncertainty of the future of energy and of transportation. Will it be oil, natural gas, electricity, nuclear energy, or hydrogen? Nobody knows. But trillions of dollars are being spent by companies and private investors without any way of knowing which one of these technologies will ultimately be profitable. And of course, there is a risk that we know. The globalized capitalist system has managed to deliver unprecedented growth, but at a cost of irreversible damage to the environment, huge inequalities, and exaggerated dependence on a few countries or on a few giant tech companies. It is now obvious that our model of growth is just not sustainable and has to be reinvented. New concepts are rising, like circular economy, and of course the importance of a multipolar world. The governments have a hugely important role to play, safeguarding the economic structure and protecting the most vulnerable while creating conditions for long-term sustainable growth. These conditions are providing good education, strong financial system, good normative system, while channeling the huge dynamism and creativity of the private sector, which we represent, towards creating a more sustainable future. This is a huge challenge that can only be addressed through international cooperation. Fortunately, governments are talking with one another and trying to find new ways forward. G20, G70, COP26, even the Quad now. And it is for us a great relief to see that the United States are back and eager to provide leadership, together with the EU and a number of other countries, on a new Green Deal. Being a demographic, economic, and technological powerhouse, India has a huge role to play. Together with the US and the EU, it could form not a quad, but a virtual triangle, and provide a source of inspiration for developing countries by teaching them how to reconcile growth and sustainability. I hope that the upcoming EU-India Leaders Summit, which will take place on the 8th of May in Porto, will be an important step towards greater Indo-European partnership and cooperation. It would be good if progress could be made in negotiations of a free trade agreement and also an investment promotion and protection agreement. That would boost our bilateral economic relations while delivering sustainable growth. It is based on these premises that Belgium is looking at opportunities to further develop its economic relations with India. According to the official figures, we are doing pretty well. Belgium is one of the top 3 largest EU trading partners of India and the 13th largest investor in India. But, of course, these numbers are distorted by our very important bilateral trade in diamonds, which is unfortunately a sector that is in steep decline. So it is not there that we will find the potential for future growth. But we see plenty of other opportunities. Both India and Belgium have very diversified economies, and our bilateral economic relations already span across multiple sectors, such as renewable energy, waste management, IT solutions, food and beverages, engineering, or pharmaceuticals. Our economic partnership is strong and provides a foundation for further expansion. Here are some sectors on which we intend to focus. First of all, the green economy. Belgium and India are very different countries in size and population numbers, but we do have several things in common, including a high population density, meaning that on many levels we also face similar problems for which we need to develop innovative solutions. For example, regarding waste management and recycling, water preservation, optimizing of infrastructure. Several Belgian companies are already active in India, offering smart and sustainable energy solutions to facilitate the green transition. The launch of the National Green Hydrogen Energy Mission by Prime Minister Modi last December creates even more opportunities for our two countries to work together, as several Belgian companies also have relevant expertise to share in this field. The pharmaceutical sector is another one that offers much opportunities for cooperation. While India is specialized in producing vaccine, medicine, and therapeutics on a large scale, Belgium is more specialized in research and development thereof, with its competitive research infrastructure driven by universities and major research facilities. We are a leading player for pharmaceutical, therapeutics, and vaccines, counting over 200 innovative pharma businesses, including some of the biggest players among many partnerships opportunities in the pharmaceutical and in the biotechnology sector. One thing that is not known enough, Belgium has already approved over 1,000 requests for the export of COVID vaccines, totaling 27 million doses. And this brings us to the next sector. Belgium is also a very important logistical hub. It is a gateway to Europe, Africa, and the rest of the world. Thanks to a highly developed logistic infrastructure of airports, roads, railways, and ports, including the port of Antwerp, one of the largest and most efficient in the world. And we would like to see more Indian companies taking advantage of these opportunities, like SpiceJet has recently done when they signed a MOU with Brussels Airport. Other sectors also are technology and engineering, of course, but also the space sector, where we already have a long-lasting cooperation in things going from satellite to telescope, and of course, defense and security. On all of these, please feel free to contact the trade section of the embassy, trade sections, I have to say, because as you know, in Belgium, trade is a regional competence, so we have two. And you can find their booths also outside, and my colleagues are also here in this room. So you can contact them and ask them about opportunities of doing business, and also through them, you will be able to link up with Belgian companies. We also have, and he is here in this room also, a custom attaché at the embassy that can also answer your questions and help you solve your problems. Finally, I want to highlight that while there are many opportunities to strengthen our economic relations, many challenges remain. Yes, the Indian market has enormous potential, but we must also acknowledge that it is not the easiest of markets for small and medium-sized foreign companies to navigate. Belgium's economic landscape mainly consists of small and medium-sized corporations. This makes for dynamic, adaptive, and resilient ecosystem, but it also creates challenges for SMEs investing abroad. It is not an easy decision for them to take. It is even less so in these circumstances, which I have described at the beginning of my speech. More than ever, businesses will try to maximize the opportunities while minimizing the risks. So ensuring greater investment, security, notably adequate protection of intellectual property, and tackling other existing trade hurdles, such as tariff and non-tariff barriers, will help us unlock the full potential of our economic relation. It is important to keep a bilateral dialogue open to find practical solutions to these challenges, and I must say that we are encouraged by the good contacts that we have with the Indian authorities, notably Invest India, but also Ministry of Commerce or Customs Department, not to mention my colleague who will maybe join us, the Indian ambassador in Brussels, Ambassador Santosh Jha, who is doing so much to promote our bilateral ties. It is the government's responsibility to create an environment conducive to trade and investment, but ultimately, of course, the business decisions will belong to the private actors. And they must be informed and confident, and also sometimes find the right partner in. In this, institutions such as the Phdcci have a very important role to play. This is why we welcome an event like the one you have organized today, and we are looking forward to working with you in the coming years. I thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you, Excellency. Thank you for those inspirational and marvelous words. Incidentally, I wish to inform the audience and also the excellencies on the dais that during the very recent meeting with the Honorable CIM, that is Shri Piyush Goyal, PhD chamber was assigned an additional task of joining hands with the other apex chambers to facilitate these heads of state with their inbound delegations to our country. And we are most fortunate that the Honorable CIM has understood the strength of the PhD chamber and has allowed us to also host. This will pave the way for many, many openings between our members, 150,000 of them, especially the large and medium and small enterprises, to interact with all these delegations in times to come. And we hope that a lot of collaborations, lot of support, lot of joint ventures will take place. The second point which I want to highlight, Excellencies, that the sectors which were mentioned by the Excellencies right ahead of my taking on the dais was all these sectors are very, very fantastic sectors where our members and our associations, 212 of them, they're already interacting with the business partners overseas. It is because of the undaunting COVID times that there was a lull during the business opportunities last year. But nevertheless, India has bounced back. And I want to again make it a point that we are very proud that the vaccination drive of our country has taken over the world by storm. And India has set an example among all our neighborly countries where we have not only vaccinated ourselves, but also provided support and vaccinations to our neighborly foreign-friendly countries. May I now request and invite our next speaker, Mr. Milan Hovorka, Ambassador of the Czech Republic to India, for his guest address. Thank you, Excellency.
Thank you so much. So once again, namaskar, good afternoon, and definitely to greet the Joint Secretary Sandra Chakraborty. Hopefully he's with us. He's attending, I understand, virtually. Parshotam Bagheria, Chair, International Affairs, fellow ambassadors, members of diplomatic corps, and in person and virtual participants to this important gatherings. Good afternoon, and I would like to start by expressing my sincerest gratitude to you all for attending the PhD International Week event and for the interest you have shown in exploring the ways forward to strengthen bilateral relations between India and Europe. And I have also to mention countries of Commonwealth of Independent States. And I would like to express my thanks to our today's host, PhD Chamber of Commerce and Industry, for bringing us together and all that tremendous efforts they have been deploying to promote different kind of partnerships between India and other countries. I have to say that this is the second event organized by PhD Chamber that I have been participating in last couple of days on Friday in Chandigarh, together with a colleague of mine from Slovenia. We were engaging on the topic of the role of international heritage tourism. And when addressing the conclave, I already had the opportunity and privilege to commend the Chamber for its very proactive approach. Yes, they deserve a big round of applause. And when attending yesterday's inaugural session, I was surprised that the Chamber organized more than 80 events over the last couple of months, 12 months, I should say. to promote businesses and help us find appropriate answers to the challenges posed by the COVID-19 pandemic. And I believe you will all agree with me if I say that this pandemic is one of the most unprecedented challenges humanity has ever experienced in whatever terms: health, social, economic, environment. And it has resulted in loss of livelihoods for millions of families, disrupted entirely every aspect of our day-to-day lives, and triggered a major global economic crisis, and Francois, ambassador of Belgium, talked about that. And the impact of this crisis is being felt across all sectors of the economy, nationally and globally. And there is no doubt that micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises are among those who are mostly hit. And as we just heard, SMEs is a synonym of PhD focus. And you should also know that the ambassadors come to this place because we care. And I believe that we all can appreciate the importance SMEs bring to the economy of any of the countries attending this session. But I would also dare to say that the pandemic is not just about challenges or threats, if you wish. It is also an important wake-up call, which could be a turning point ahead in our efforts to reconcile the economy and the planet we all live on, and to change the world for the better. And I believe that this is an area in which Europeans and Indians should take the lead. The pandemic also leaves us with one simple lesson. And again, Francois alluded it. And it is that global problems require global solutions based on solidarity and shared prosperity. It may sound like a cliche. Maybe it is a cliche. But I would like to make this point as clear as I can. And again, Europe and India have to take the lead, as they have always been among the most fervent supporters of multilateralism. And as we focus our today's attention on trade and investment-related issues, I have to underline the importance of the World Trade Organization, in which I believe Europe and India can gain a lot if they make it more efficient and more responses to the challenges of today's world. The COVID crisis also sparked a new wave of creativity, innovation, business formations, and international partnerships. The use of advanced technologies has increased dramatically. And I believe that nowadays we can even better appreciate the beauty of digitalization and the role it has been playing in our efforts to enhance productivity. And I am mentioning all that as I believe that entrepreneurialism, small and medium-sized companies, and ease of doing business are among those priority areas in which Europe and India should work together. And it is also about lessons learned and about the great opportunity to rethink businesses of tomorrow, which are more resilient and sustainable. And we all know that the pandemic has relieved new vulnerabilities, fragilities, and risks in global value chains. But I believe that it also reminds us that the best way to address them is through international cooperation. And this is what this week organized by Phdcci Chamber of Commerce and Industry is about. Europe and India should be instrumental in ensuring that international trade continue to flow. This is so important in these days. And as a trade negotiator who spent 12 years in Geneva and has the privilege or had the privilege to represent the country to the World Trade Organization as the ambassador and permanent representative, I am 100% convinced that the concept of self-reliability and open trade are not necessarily excluding one another. But I believe that the two could and should be mutually supportive on condition that they are properly managed and that all governments across the globe resist the temptations to introduce new trade barriers. Unconstrained connectivity, yet another important area and I would say, condition sine qua non for the two intertwined concepts of self-reliance and free trade. And both Europeans and Indians have done a lot to ensure unconstrained access to free trade and definitely to free movement of goods and services. And I'm again repeating or mentioning that because areas, whatever is related to connectivity, is yet another important area of mutual cooperation between Europeans and Indians. Finally, definitely, green recovery. One of the lessons I believe learned is that we should avoid returning to old times, old polluted times of producing, behaving, and consuming. And the European Union, to which the Czech Republic is a very proud member, has always been among front runners when it comes to climate change agenda. But India has been doing pretty well to reconcile economic growth and environment over the last couple of years. So I think, again, we should gain a lot if we work together in areas related to climate change and environment protection. And in particular, pleased to note that the European Union and India have been enjoying a number of partnerships in this highly important sector. Final comment, and very briefly, bilateral relations between the Czech Republic and India, a 10 million economy located in the very heart of Europe, and 1.3, one of the largest world economies in the world, India. I'm particularly happy to say that the two economies have been enjoying a thriving relationship in a number of areas. Our bilateral trade reports a very good performance, and I believe we will be pleased if I say that even in 2020, in this pandemic year, in these trying times, businesses of both sides have been able to take bilateral trade flows to the next stage. And it is, I have to admit, in particular, because of the fact that Indian exporters have been quite successful in the Czech market. And you guys, you have increased your exports by 7%. And imagine that we import goods worth of $1 billion from India. And it is not, as probably someone may think, about materials, semi-finished products. It's mostly about value-added products. It is about products in which two countries have distinguished for their high level of competence. And I'm particularly pleased that in this endeavor, so both of them have been benefiting from their major competitive advantages, but also from increased involvement in global value chains. We are, I mean, the Czech Republic is one of the major automotive hubs in the world. Imagine that 10 million nation does produce 1.4 million passenger cars a year. And I'm particularly happy that Skoda is well known also here in India. And I am double happy that I'll be traveling to Mumbai the day after tomorrow, when Skoda will be launching a new car, 100% make in India car. They call it Kushak. Thank you so much. And this is not just about competition, because definitely India also has emerged as a major automotive hub. And you will be surprised that we also import huge quantities of spare parts and automotive components in the Czech Republic. Engineering. The Czech Republic is one of the countries having the highest industry to GDP ratio. In our case, it is more than 30%. And industrial cooperation is one of the areas in which Czechs and Indians have been working together for so many years. And I am extremely happy and proud that if I visit certain places, Hyderabad, Kolkata, Nagpur, and many others, that even today I can witness too many examples pointing to that excellent industrial cooperation between the two countries. Defense, aviation, space industry, these are other three sectors in which we have been working together, and which we have been deploying tremendous efforts with a view to increasing awareness and promoting different kind of networkings. Milan Dostal, a commercial counselor present here, he has been working very hard over the last couple of weeks to organize a number of events bringing Czech businesses and Indian counterparts together, because we can appreciate the opportunities offered by the Indian market. And we were among those few countries who attended in person Aero India 2021 show 2 or 3 weeks ago in Bengaluru. And we were happy to have also a high caliber business delegation coming from the Czech Republic. Environment technologies. I talk about this important area, and definitely whatever is related to circular economy. We do have technologies and believe that those technologies can perfectly serve the purpose here in India. But it's not just about trade in goods, it is also about services. We do have a number of companies offering beautiful services, definitely, including financial services, one of the largest consumer credit providers present here, giving rise to nearly 20,000 direct jobs. I don't have time enough, because I understand I have to bring my intervention to an end, but I have to mention all that at my earlier at the beginning of my presentation. I mentioned International Heritage Tourism Conclave in Chandigarh a couple of days ago. And the point I'm making now is that despite we have been talking a lot about trade, investment, different kind of cooperation, the most important asset in the bilateral relationship between the Czech Republic and India is people-to-people contacts. And we have been deploying tremendous efforts to promote it through tourism, education and culture. For the time being, unfortunately, tourists cannot travel, but believe me, we are actively engaged. We are paving the way for the moment when again all measures will be lifted. And the only I would like to request you, please do not abandon the idea of traveling. Do not abandon the idea of visiting the Czech Republic. Only postpone your plans, and definitely once the time is right, we will be happy to welcome you. Thank you so much, and great to have you with us this afternoon.
Thank you, Excellency. Thank you so much, Excellency. Thank you for those really buoyant words from the Czech ambassador and the Czech embassy. Without much ado, I would like to mention the point which you mentioned here, that during the undaunted pandemic, which struck not only the world but also India, our SMEs, I'm just giving a small example, though we are running short of time, but I'll just give you a small example of the SMEs of India, that we did not have masks, we did not have sanitizers, we did not have ventilators in the month of March when the pandemic struck the whole world, and we were also a party to it. But within 2 months, excellencies and distinguished dignitaries who have joined virtually, I would like to make a mention that from May onwards, we were self-reliant as far as masks were concerned, as far as sanitizer was concerned. And our automobile manufacturers, our auto component manufacturers, and many large and medium enterprises also created ventilators. There was a time when we only had 97,000 ventilators in our country. And thereafter, there was no looking back. We were producing almost 300 ventilators per day per organization, and we became self-reliant. So self-reliant is a story which we learned from COVID-19. And MSMEs were the drivers of the growth during pandemic too. It is only because of our enabling Government of India, our Honorable Prime Minister's clarion call, that all these people came together and we were all put our heads together and we were growing. From the GDP growth of minus 7.7%, we in the last quarter, that is in the month of December, we have grown in the month of, we are growing in the month of March, and we expect that we will be reaching a minus 2.2 GDP. And as according to the IMF and also according to our own Niti Aayog, we are likely to achieve a GDP growth of 11% by March 2022, Excellencies. Just wanted to share this. With these words, I now invite His Excellency, Mr. Aysen Aysev, the Embassy of Kyrgyz Republic, India. Excellency, pardon my pronunciation, I could not pronounce it. Please pardon me.
Dear Secretary General, Mr. Sanyal, PhD leadership, Excellencies, dear participants, Namaste, very good afternoon. I'm very glad to be here the second day on this International Week. First of all, I would like to congratulate PhD for organizing so big event, whole world during 1 week. It's beautiful. And India is so huge that could collected all countries in the one continent today. For example, Europe and CIS day, or whole Eurasian continent one day. It's only India could organize like this event. Once again, congratulations. And about CIS countries, it's 15 countries. And today I have seen me, the Tajik representative, Moldova representative, and I hope other ambassadors are representatives. They are running good economic relations and running good business with India. Yes, and I am seeing here young entrepreneurs. So may I mention a few words about Kyrgyzstan. Kyrgyz Republic is the center of the Eurasian continent, surrounded by the magnificent Tian Shan Mountains. Tian Shan is translated Heavenly Mountains. The area of the Kyrgyz Republic is 200 square kilometers. 94% of this territory is mountainous. The climate of the Kyrgyz Republic is sharply continental. Our population is more than 60 million, and we share border with China, Kazakhstan, Tajikistan, and Uzbekistan, so in the Central Asia. Geographically, we have very important strategic point. It's the junction of trade, transport, and air roads, which could share, for example, by air with north of China, Siberia of Russia. For example, maybe mostly you know about Moscow and the west of Russia. But for example, from Central Asia, from Kyrgyzstan, you can easily reach east of Russia. It's huge territory. Novosibirsk, Ekaterinburg, Omsk. It's easy to reach from Central Asia and particularly from Kyrgyzstan, from Bishkek. In this case, we are provided fifth freedom of air connection, so you can come to Kyrgyzstan, take a mail, change your aircraft. So it's just to use like a free Airbus. It's fifth freedom of air freedom. And also you can reach, we are bordered with China. China, mostly Xinjiang Uyghur Republic of China. It's a very developed now region of China. We have very good relations. So all nationalities of international companies who located in Kyrgyzstan also doing business with China through Kyrgyzstan. Kyrgyzstan has more than 80 nationalities, so international agreement for us, it's very important. From Delhi to Bishkek is just 2 hours, 30 minutes, and you can find interesting country, multinational country with modern city, modern people, different cuisine. I tell later about tourism a little bit. Now a few words about market reforms in our country. In Czech Ambassador mentioned about World Trade Organization. We were one of the first who entered in this organization in 1998. 2015, we officially joined to Eurasian Economic Union. It's a huge organization with a population of 182 million. 2016, European Union granted Kyrgyzstan the right to generalized system of preferences, GSP+. This can be give us. We can export to European Union without any custom duties more than 6,000 products produced in Kyrgyzstan. So if you come to Kyrgyzstan and can open some joint venture, you can also export to European Union without any custom duties. And about tourism, it's a hiking paradise in Kyrgyzstan. We have biosphere zones, resorts, recreational facilities. There are ecotourism, mountain tourism, hunting, rafting, etc. We have 22 different ecosystems, 160 varieties of mountain and lowland landscape, and also famous mountain peaks such as Pobeda Peak, it's 7,439 meters, Lenin Peak, 7,134 meters, Han Tengri, it's around 7,000 meters. There are more than 2,000 beautiful lakes, and one of the largest in the world is named Phdcci, hot lake. It never freezes. We have in winter time -20, but this lake never freezes because of it has in some kind of sources, warm sources, so you can swim in the winter time. More than 40,000 rivers and streams there, and Kyrgyzstan became leader in the ranking of the best travel destination of the National Geographic Traveler Awards 2014. British Financial Times in 2016 included Kyrgyzstan on the list of 7 countries worth visiting, and National Geographic Travel magazine named Phdcci one of the best places to travel in 2015. About agriculture, a few words. We have very interesting favorable climate to produce ecological clean products. And also India very interested about these products. And now we are started to export to India dry fruits, honey, nuts, and from Indian entrepreneurs we have big interest to produce ecological clean products in Kyrgyzstan. Because of its mountains area, it's not very much was used before that time, so we can open new area to produce, and ecologically it's very clean. So, for example, Japan, Germany, other developed countries take airs and organize some special place, lands to produce ecological products and take to Europe, Japan, and some other countries. And one of the main our industry is mining. These industries provide about 60% of all industrial production, and Kyrgyzstan has large proven reserves of gold, tungsten, tin, antimony, mercury, rare earth metals. Maybe you have heard it's Kumtor, one of the largest in the world, one of mining industry of gold. The new law of Kyrgyz Republic about subsoil provides great opportunities for investors and allows them to actively participate in the development of mineral resources in Kyrgyzstan. Now we have new leadership of country, and for example, new president of country, Mr. Sadr Japarov, he took agency, investment agency by the, under patronage of president, and every time he meets with investors, foreign business and personally, and promise that foreign investors, foreign businessmen will be protection even under president. By the way, for example, we have business ombudsman, and as usually it's foreign citizen. Now it's a UK citizen ombudsman. What he doing business ombudsman? He protect rights of investors, not only foreigners, also a Kyrgyz businessman. Textile and clothing industries, it's one of the main priorities in our cooperation with India. You know about achievements of India in this sphere. Also, we'd like to cooperate in this sphere. And Kyrgyzstan, our products export oriented in Kyrgyzstan. Even Kyrgyzstan named like a swing machine for CIS countries because of before that we did export from China to CIS countries because we are share borders, and after that our people started produce themselves these clothes, and we have huge bazaar because of its tourist resorts from Uzbekistan, Russia coming to Kyrgyzstan to take rest. And by the way, they visited this big bazaar. It's named Dordon. It's turnover of this bazaar. It's more than 3 billion, and they come to take rest in winter time or summertime. They visited this bazaar and take some clothes. And a few words about our cooperation with Indian political sphere. We are strategic partner with India. His Excellency Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi visited Kyrgyzstan 3 times. We have cooperation in military sphere, educational sphere, business sphere. We are part of all organizations, and we hope that soon will be visit of our president to India. Thank you very much for your attention.
Excellency. Thank you, Excellency, for your vivid account of the Kyrgyzstan Republic. May I now invite His Excellency Mr. Reuben Gosi, High Commissioner of Malta, to kindly address the audience.
Thank you very much. I am Phdcci, the High Commissioner of Malta. I believe I'm one of the newest commissioners ambassadors here. I've arrived 6 months ago, but it is my greatest pleasure to say that the hospitality which I met here in India make me feel that I've already been here for much, much longer. I would also like to praise PhD for, as my colleagues have done before, for organizing such events where you cover everywhere. And may I suggest maybe you should have the Commonwealth Day as well. That way Malta would take part twice. In fact, that's why I'm called High Commissioner, because Malta is a member of the Commonwealth. In relation to India, we have a common past. It's also interesting, and I like to mention this, that all the ships moving from Great Britain to India during the time when both of our countries were colonized by the British, all the ships passed through Malta, because the voyage was Great Britain, Gibraltar, Malta, Cyprus, Suez Canal, and then India. So we are in each other's routes. Even though, of course, we're relatively far from each other, but we are in each other's roots. And that is something which gives me hope, because we still are up until this day. Now, obviously, I have to mention the differences between Malta and India, and obviously the size, right? The population of Malta is less than 500,000. So if you were to compare this to the Indian population, even the figures escape me of how much smaller we are than India. But having said that, I believe it was the Belgian colleague who mentioned the density. So the Belgian colleague was saying that the density of Belgium is, the population density of Belgium is large, so is India. But may I say that ours is even more, because the size of Malta is 316 square kilometers. And when you divide that with 500,000, you will get more than 1,000 people per square kilometer. So even though we are small in almost everything, and we are one of, in fact, the microstates in the world, but our population density is one of the largest, and if I may say, it will even surpass probably India. To go back to Malta, so we have been members of the European Union since 2004. We have been members of Commonwealth much before that. We became members of Schengen in 2007, and we adopted the euro in 2008. So it is my pleasure to say that my country is probably the only country which is, because even say Cyprus is not a member of Schengen. So my country is a member of the EU, a member of Schengen, a member of the Eurozone, and a member of Commonwealth. So we share a number of memberships. We are on top of a number of memberships of quite famous groups like the Schengen group, the Euro group, etc., etc. I was very pleased to note, I think it was mentioned, I believe it was the Czech colleague who mentioned it, the self-reliance of India in relation to sanitizers, in relation to pharmaceuticals, etc. I mean, I've lost count of how many sanitizers I was given as a present here since I arrived. I mean, I did. So I could really feel how can I put it? I could really feel the self-reliance of India as far as pharmaceuticals and sanitizers are. So many. So I could see it physically. To go back to talk about Malta-India bilateral relations, so I mentioned that we both share a past in our English colony. We were both occupied by the British. We drive on the same side. That's another thing we share with India. We got our independence on the 21st of September 1964. And not even a year later, we established our bilateral relations with India. So that was the 10th of March 1965 when Malta and India established bilateral relations. So it was literally immediate. And we are also proud to say that India was one of the first countries in the world to recognize the Maltese state. So even though there's a difference in size, even though there's a difference in culture, etc., but India was one of the first countries to recognize Malta as a state. We also have had a very interesting presence, Indian presence in Malta in the past. And there was also an interesting Maltese presence here in India. Now, because Malta is small, you may not have heard of this. But as you remember, I mentioned that ships were passing all the time in Malta before coming to India. So that made us a hub and made it easy, or relatively easy for us, in the 19th century, to travel here to India and the other way around. So we have very, very relatively old Indian communities in Malta who established themselves, established shops in the central street of Valletta, which is our capital. Mainly the shops were textiles. So especially I remember when I was growing up in the 80s, buying clothes had a connection with India, because usually you would buy them from the Indian textile cloth shops in the center of Valletta. So I remember names like Savita, Gopaldas, Krishna. These were the names of these shops. And so in my childhood, I already grew up seeing Indian business. I already grew up, let's put it this way, near to the Indian entrepreneurial spirit. And I understand that in India, the entrepreneurial spirit is very, very, very strong. In fact, it's from what I heard in the past 6 months when I was here, it's usually the Indian entrepreneur who goes to the government to the Indian government with ideas rather than the other way around. And this includes most especially pharmaceuticals. I remember we visited Hyderabad in the 9th of December, and that's what we were told there by Phdcci Biotech, the ones who developed the Indian vaccine of which you should be proud. He told us, it is us who went with the government. It was not the government, the Indian government, who ordered us, listen, find a vaccine. It was the other way around. It was the Indian entrepreneur who went to the government with a solution, with a vaccine. And that is really admirable. And talking about pharmaceuticals, I am proud to say that there is an Indian pharmaceutical factory in Malta, Aurobindo. So in fact, in Malta, when we hear of pharmaceuticals, we usually, in the past, we used to think of textiles, as I told you, the shops, etc. These days, when we hear pharmaceuticals, we usually think of India. And especially during these COVID times, it was clear, even before the vaccines were found, even before the vaccines were made, that once the vaccines would be made, most of them would be made, the large bulk would be made in India. And now we are seeing this. We are seeing this happen. We are, once again, self-reliance of India, not only self-reliance as far as pharmaceuticals are concerned, but also exporting pharmaceuticals to different countries in the world, and even creating the vaccine diplomacy idea. I read the news every day, and every day I read a part of the news here in India. It's about the vaccine diplomacy. And that is also something which you should be proud of. May I tell you that Maltese businessmen, Maltese entrepreneurs are very, very interested in your country. We have opened our High Commission here in 2007. And since then, the interest in India, the trade with India, even the amount of visitors, especially from India to Malta, has increased double-fold, triple-fold. Obviously, COVID-19 is what it is. It created a lot of barriers. It's unheard of for a Maltese High Commissioner, for a Maltese ambassador, to tell people that at the moment Malta is not accepting a lot of tourists. It's unheard of since our independence, even before. Tourism was one of our, and well, I cannot say still is now because of COVID, but up until recently, it was 35% of our economy. And tourism from India was booming. For instance, I'm remembering like wedding tourism. You know, people used to go to Malta, Indian people, to make very, very large weddings. And in fact, it also stuck in the Maltese psyche when they see large weddings. They compare it to the Indian weddings, which they saw happening in Malta in the past. Also, Bollywood movies. Malta was always an interesting hub for movies. And eventually even Bollywood made its way in. So there were some very, very interesting films shot in Malta. If you've seen, for instance, the blockbuster Gladiator, the blockbuster Troy, and a number of others, even House of Cards, what was the other one? I'm sorry, I'm forgetting, but a real number of films. And recently we even had Bollywood films, and I keep on, because the interesting thing about Malta is it's very small, as I told you, 316 square kilometers, but it can double for a lot of places. So it could be Greece, it could be Rome, it could be North Africa, and possibly it could even double for India, who knows? But in any case, I mean, if Indian film companies are coming to Malta, they will not necessarily want to double India to replicate Malta for India, but to use it at least for what it is. Also, it's interesting to say we have our relationship with the sea. In the case of Malta, who was, I think it was definitely, the ambassador of Kyrgyzstan was saying that Kyrgyzstan is a hiking paradise. In our case, it's a scuba diving paradise. So our territory is not, when tourists come to us, they just don't stay always on land. They go under the sea, they go around. In fact, we have more sea under our responsibility than we have land. Our largest surroundings are the sea. Now, I know that in the case of India, you have a very, very large landmass, but still the sea surrounding India is very, very large. So there is the same feeling. We are an island, you are a peninsula. So our relation with the sea is something also that we share. And I would like to also mention the Maltese presence in India. It goes back quite some time. For instance, in my 6 months here, I visited a community, a Maltese religious community in Dumka, in Jharkhand. Today, there are only 4 Maltese. But in the past, there used to be 20, 30. So this particular religious area, which was very, very helpful to the surroundings, was literally Maltese. So there was a Maltese island in Dumka. In fact, whenever I tell people that I've been to Dumka in my 6 months, they tell me, wow, like some people have never been there. So, you know, some foreigners have never been there. But it's interesting because there is a Maltese oasis there, if I may call it. And I was very, very impressed to see photos of all the Maltese that worked there in the past, going back to the 20s. And something which also made me proud was that one of the still living ones is related to me. So the same surname, Gaucho, he's the cousin of my grandfather. And I remember hearing about him since I was in the 80s. And when I was told that I was coming here as a High Commissioner of Malta, the first thing that I thought of, okay, I will meet him, which I did. So it was really, really a proud family moment. There is a lot more to say, but I know we're running out of time, and I think I will leave it at there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Excellency. Ladies and gentlemen, we are already running short of time by half an hour. So we have another meeting at 5, so I will request Excellencies to give their discourses and their speeches. They restrict themselves and adhere to the timings. Now I shall invite our Excellency Dr. Marjan Sensen, Ambassador, Embassy of the Republic of Slovenia, India, for his remarks.
Thank you very much. I'm already here, so 5 seconds.
Thank you. Thank you.
I would like to thank first the PhD and commend for successful organization of the events. As you heard, the second one this week. Also, congratulations for the your new assignment organizing delegations. We look forward. Not long ago, Indian President visited Slovenia, and we also organized a business event with the chamber. So I hope you will help us once we get a visit here to India. So not to do too long introduction, I would just like to say a few words from where my colleagues already finished. So Slovenia is also one of the green countries. It's in the heart of Europe and the gateway to Central and Eastern Europe. So if you look at the map, you will see that Slovenia is actually located at the coast, and then you have the whole entrance to Central Europe, but very deep into south part of the Europe. It has an exceptional geostrategic position at the intersection of two TEN-T corridors, that is Mediterranean and the Baltic Adriatic corridors. It has export-driven economy. We export about 85 of our production. It was one of the fastest growing economies in Europe before the pandemic slowed the global economy. So one of our priorities during the second half of this year, when Slovenia will be the chairing country of the European Union, will be actually the recovery after the pandemic, to establish a stronger resilience of the society, and especially European Union, against future calamities as this one, and of course to strengthen the new areas of economy, what was mentioned before. Of course, the cyber area now is one of the most interesting that we are talking about, and this is something what I think both Europe and India have much in common. Slovenian companies that create products and services with the desire to deliver smart solutions that benefit environment, society, and business. We have actually reformed our traditional economy into modern oriented. Our economy is therefore focused on green, sustainable, and smart solutions that bring benefit to the whole world, including India, I hope, as much as possible. The strategic position of our port of Koper, with modern port infrastructure that offers the quickest delivery of goods from Asia to Central and Eastern Europe. The route from Asia through Suez to Port of Koper is 8 days shorter than Western Europe, with all respect to my friend Francois. But of course, if you deliver goods from India to Austria, it's a little bit shorter than, but you know, that's why we are that we are complementary in this regard. Slovenia has the highest number of hidden champions per million population in Central Eastern and Southeastern Europe. That is to say, we are among the world leaders in niche products, among top 3 in the world and number 1 in Europe. It's something what I even didn't know, but this is the area which is growing. Research and innovation plays an important role in Slovenia. According to Bloomberg Innovation Index, Slovenia ranks 21st in the world, so it's improved by 10 places in the last 10 years. We have 4,200 researchers per 1 million people. We allocate 2% of our GDP to research and innovation, and we have 100% tax deduction on research and innovation expenses. So this is something also for India to look about. Our most known high-tech research institutions are National Institute of Chemistry and Josef Stefan Institute, which now also is the hub of the Artificial Intelligence Center established by UNESCO. So you are welcome, and we are looking for India also to join its activity. Presence of an investment from international companies from different industries are quite strong. I can just mention a few of them, like Japan is very strongly present in Slovenia. Companies like Toyota, Sumitomo, Yasukawa, and Hitachi are present in Slovenia. But also Renault, Mahle, Danfoss, or Novartis when we talk about pharmaceuticals. And I think that for India, this is also a big opportunity. We have 2 big international pharmaceutical companies that are present all the way to China. I've seen them getting truck permits for Mongolia, for example, and Slovenia is quite far from Mongolia, but they do deliver the pharmaceuticals there. Long industrial tradition and strong manufacturing, in particular in automotive component industries, chemicals, pharmaceuticals, electronics and ICT, logistics and distribution, woodworking industry. With respect to mentioned industries, we can proudly say that almost every car in the world has part made in Slovenia. That's strange, again, to hear, but this also applies to cars in India, with an exception of Mahindra cars. All other cars produced in India have parts made in Slovenia. Our companies, Krka and Lek Novartis, are also leading manufacturers of pharmaceuticals, and are also the logistics and distribution industry, apart from mentioned geostrategic position, offers modern and high-tech connectivity and infrastructure. So what Slovenia can offer to India? I will be short in this. So machinery and equipment, industrial automation, transport and logistics solution, food processing, engineering and technology equipment, transport and logistics, and water management and waste segregation solutions. We are already present at Clean Ganga project. Automotive, as I mentioned, chemicals, pharmaceuticals, electrical, electronics, and wood industry. I would like to draw attention that Slovenia, in the center of Europe, with relatively low expenditure and excellent life quality conditions, or as we say, the right mix of qualities, represents an attractive destination for Indian companies for investment or to establish their headquarters for doing business in Europe. And of course, business cannot happen in absence of stimulating business and investment, without stimulating business and investment environment. And that is the task of our government and policymakers. Slovenian government has many instruments to motivate foreign investors, not only the new ones, but also the ones that are already present in Slovenia. In addition to our corporate rate has been set at 19% of taxable base, and we also have tax reliefs for investments, tax deductions due to loss carried forward, and we have, like, let's say, other incentives. We can also discuss about this at our booth, which is outside or later after this meeting, so I will spare some time for my colleagues. And an important step in creating more conducive business environment would also represent the conclusion of the free trade agreement and investment agreement between European Union and India. I think all of my colleagues are advocating and supporting this agreement. We are cautiously optimistic. I hope this will happen. Probably not during the leaders meeting in May, but hopefully soon after that. So that's why it's very important that we now established a high-level group that will help to get forward to establish and negotiate this agreement. So thank you for having us here, and I wish you success in further events this week. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Majan, Excellency, Ambassador of Slovenia, for your excellent remarks. Before I invite His Excellency, Mr. Adam Burakovsky, Ambassador, Embassy of Poland, India, for his guest address, I am pleased to inform each one of you sitting in this audience and who have joined us virtually that PhD Chamber is participating and organizing the India Pavilion at the virtual edition of the Warsaw Print and Packaging Expo 2021, which is being organized today. So ladies and gentlemen, may I now invite His Excellency, Mr. Burakovsky, for his guest address. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for the invitation. Thank you, the President of the PhD and all the PhD Chamber of Commerce. I will be very short because my colleagues already said what I wanted to say, that their countries are fantastic. And I fully agree with all that they said. And it happens that all the countries are very good friends of Poland. And India is also a very big friend of my country. So just to be short, I can tell you that India has become an important direction of Polish foreign economic policy in the global dimension. India is now #1 country in Asia for Polish investors. India is much better than China, South Korea, Japan in this context. Our investors go to India because despite some, of course, very understandable cultural differences, we have a lot in common, and we understand each other maybe better than with other nations. It is visible also in people-to-people relations. There are nowadays around 40,000 Indians in Warsaw, in Poland, and in Warsaw alone there are around 100 Indian restaurants from all over India. You can find the northern, southern Indian cuisine in Warsaw without any problem. All of them are now, unfortunately, running. You cannot sit in just delivery, but they are doing well, and they contribute a lot of value to the cultural pattern of Poland. I can just tell you that we see a number of opportunities to intensify the economic dialogue with your great country, and Poland is surely a reliable partner in Central Europe. Why? Because we are one of the most stable and also the fastest, or one of the fastest growing economies over the past year, a member of European Union and one of the most friendly places to do business. Despite the hardships of 2020, we were the third preferred location in Europe for foreign investments, with nearly 200 foreign investments in the last year's portfolio, with a total record value of 10 billion euro. Our foreign direct investment is on the 10% rise, despite the global trend. At this moment, there are 142 Indian companies active in Poland, with over $3 billion of Indian investment in various sectors, mostly in advanced production technologies. Like 2 weeks ago, I visited Infosys in Bangalore, and Infosys is one of the biggest Indian investors, and they are still in Poland, and they are still expanding and setting new units in our country. An increase of almost 3% of in bilateral trade was visible in 2019, but then the COVID came, and now we have some stable. There's no increase, and just before COVID, in September 2019, we launched the direct flight from Warsaw to Delhi, operated by LOT Polish Airlines, but unfortunately, it lasted only for half a year. And because of COVID, it has been cancelled, and we are trying to get the air bubble agreement with India, which is not so easy to get. We do our best to make investing in Poland as easy as possible. We are dynamically expanding the assets of the Polish economic offer: fintech, cybersec, smart cities, drones, green technologies, and water, complemented by medtech and agritech. We are also looking forward to cooperating more around innovation, research, and the know-how exchange. We have dedicated institutions that assist companies that enter our market. The communication network is well developed in Poland, and you can easily communicate in English. There are also English. When you go to study in Poland, you can study in English, and we have around 4,000 Indian students in Poland. We want to increase this number to promote studying in Poland. The national agency, the Polish National Agency of Academic Exchange, has just opened its office in Manipal Academy of Higher Education in Karnataka, and there are Polish language courses in the Warsaw, the Delhi University, and the academy that I just mentioned, the Manipal Academy of Higher Education. And I would like to invite you to visit Poland and study in Poland and become more interested in Poland. Or meri jakli xabdome to ek saval he kyun Poland. Or meri nazarme to jawab bahut आसान है. सारी दुनिया से अच्छा पोलैंड हमारा भी व्यापारी करने के लिए बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद.
Thank you, Excellency. Thank you for the lovely Hindi script that you spoke just now. I wish to announce a special announcement that in place of the ambassador, our Indian ambassador of Uzbekistan, Ms. Sipra Ghosh, the counselor, will be addressing the audience in due course of time. And now we would like to once again welcome the heads of Indian missions present through the video conference facility. I'm sure they are all there. May I now invite His Excellency, Mr. Jaideep Majumdar, Ambassador of India to Austria, for his guest address. Mr. Majumdar, please. Thank you.
Greetings to all of you in India, excellencies and leaders of the PhD chamber, and to my colleague in Europe, Ambassador Santosh Jha in Brussels. I hope you can hear and see me, at least hear me if not see me. I thank the PhD Chamber of Commerce and Industry for inviting me to share my thoughts on India-Europe Day 2021. I must begin by acknowledging that despite the limitations posed by the pandemic, it is encouraging to see Indian chambers and industry associations active in planning and reaching out for a post-COVID world. It is also good to see so many European ambassadors in Delhi attending and contributing to this event. It is a good time for corporate India to plan and a good time for companies in Europe to consider upping their engagement with India, because by all estimates, the Indian economy will be the fastest growing major economy in the world in the coming year, at rates varying in estimates from 11.5% by the IMF to over 12.5% by the OECD. I know that many of us in India, when we think of strengthening economic relations with Europe, think of increasing exports to Europe. And this is, of course, a perfectly valid ambition. European economies will also grow and demand for imports will increase again. For example, the Austrian economy is expected to expand by 4.5% this year, and our exports to Austria would show a healthy 8% plus growth in the year before COVID, are likely to again increase at a brisk rate. Overall, Austria's imports declined by 11% last year, and this year they are expected to grow by 66.2%, which makes for a massive 17% growth over last year's aggregate figure. This is likely to be the case across much of Europe. However, when we talk about strengthening economic relations with Europe, exports are only part of the story. In my view, of far greater long-term significance for Indian industry and for European industry, for that matter, are the new opportunities that are opening up, and I will presently return to this subject. Just as we are working with our Asian partners, our endeavor with Europe is to turn European industry towards India as part of a reliable alternative value chain. Our interest in reaching an early harvest of an FTA and in finalizing an investment agreement are geared towards this end. The level of ambition displayed at the India-EU Virtual Summit last year should be an indication of the desire on both sides to make this a reality. The fact that we are having the first ever India-EU 27 Summit in Porto in May is a further signal in this direction. As far as the potential for industry is concerned, it is important to note that even a relatively small country in Europe, such as Austria, has over 130 companies active in India. In such areas as smart transportation and signaling systems, hydroelectric power equipment, tunneling, steel plant technology, robotics, water monitoring, purification and desalination, railway track laying machines, semiconductors, vehicular parts and engine testing systems, thermal process plants for automotive and gear industry, formwork for construction sector, compost systems, biogas plants, waste-based biodiesel, hydroelectric lifting, hydraulic lifting, loading and handling systems, cable cars, ropeways, and so on. The new opportunities opening up for India and Europe that I mentioned a little while ago are in the industries of the future. Digital economy, artificial intelligence, biotechnology. These are all areas of great priority for Europe. For India too, these are areas where we have great strength and are eager to cooperate in. For European companies that may be hesitant to engage in these areas with some other large economies, India presents an open, democratic, rules-based system, market, and technologically skilled manpower that provides almost unlimited opportunities for scalability of technology and its application that should be a natural magnet. There is thus a great deal that can be done in these areas between Indian and European companies. But it is not only in the industries of the future economy that exciting opportunities present themselves. The overwhelmingly large part of the economy, both in India and Europe, and likely to remain so for the foreseeable future, is the old economy that employs the vast majority of our workforces. However, that economy is also undergoing fundamental transformation. We in India have to see how to make that economy more sustainable, both in energy use and resource use, amid growing environmental concerns. Austria, for example, as a microcosm of Europe, has technologies that are crucial for a circular economy, sustainable industrialization and energy efficiency, and carbon neutral technologies. Cutting-edge research institutions are well integrated with industry, and India presents the opportunities for scalability that make such technologies viable. And hence, I would urge Indian companies to not merely look to Europe as a market, but as a source of these technologies that will help Indian industry to meet the transformational challenges of sustainability and efficiency that are inevitable. Indian industry will perish if it does not adapt to these demands of our times. For European industry, India presents a vibrant economy that is ready to embrace not only the technologies of the future, but those that make for greater energy efficiency, low carbon emission, address air and water pollution, and resource recycling. They should grasp the opportunities for investment in these areas in India rather than merely being content with selling technology or machinery. The missions of Make in India, Digital India, Startup India, Clean India, etc., are all opportunities that are waiting to be grasped. I hope I've been able to convey my thoughts in a nutshell on the great potential that I see looking ahead in the India-Europe economic partnership. I do firmly believe that in the multipolar world that is emerging, these two economies have the most to gain from their mutual interaction. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Excellency. Thank you, Excellency, for your excellent speech and giving out the inroads to the European fraternity and for the benefit of our MSMEs. Thank you so much for joining us virtually and sparing your valuable time. May I now invite Ms. Shipra Ghosh, Counselor, Embassy of India to Uzbekistan, for her guest address. Ms. Shipra Ghosh, please. Can I request Mr. Abhishek Banwara to kindly change the, get her on the screen. Is Ms. Shipra Ghosh, Counselor to the Embassy of India, Uzbekistan, there? Okay, I think she is going to take some time. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are fortunate to play the video message of His Excellency, Mr. Santosh Jha, Ambassador of India to Belgium and Luxembourg and the European Union. May I have the video, please?
My warmest greetings to all of you. I'm delighted to have this opportunity to speak on this occasion. I thank Phdcci for the invitation. Relations between India and Europe has been a traditional one. It has always been strong, both at the level of member states as well as at the level of European Union. Today, the EU is India's leading economic partner. It is India's second largest trade partner, a leading source of investment, and a major source of technology and best practices. Today, there is hardly an area of economic interaction in which we are not cooperating already. As a fellow democracy and market economy, the EU also emerges as a partner of choice for India in its various developmental priorities. In the recent years, there has been a definite intensification in our relations. This is reflected also in the busy calendar of visits on both sides, including at high political levels. Both the Prime Minister and the External Affairs Minister had expended considerable time and energy further strengthening these relations in recent years. The new intensity is also reflected in the successful outcome of the India-EU Virtual Summit on 15 July 2020. The agreement on the Strategic Partnership Roadmap for 2025 and a wide-ranging joint statement underlines the multidimensional nature of the strategic partnership. Agreement on cooperation on civil nuclear energy was signed during the summit. Another agreement on science and technology was extended for next 10 years. In the political sphere, a dialogue on maritime security was launched. An important result from the summit was the launch of the high-level dialogue on trade and investment between the Minister of Commerce in India and the Commissioner of Trade in the European Commission. The first meeting of the dialogue took place on 5th February earlier this year. Both sides are now engaged in an intensive discussion on different tracks at the technical level to examine the feasibility and the possibility of resumption of trade and investment negotiations at the earliest. A final decision is expected at the second dialogue between the ministers, expected towards the end of April this year. Even prior to the high-level dialogue in February, various working mechanisms under the trade rubric, such as working groups on SPS and TBT, plant health, agriculture, pharmaceuticals, and trade, have met in the last 3 months, reflecting this new momentum in our trade ties. The ongoing discussions on various tracks, as I mentioned earlier, in the broader higher level dialogue on trade and investment will significantly provide a boost to this very momentum that I spoke earlier. We are also examining the possibility of cooperation on supply chain resilience between India and the EU, which can contribute to a stronger, stabler, safer, and more resilient supply chains at the global level. The summit in July also saw a new desire for closer cooperation in the digital space. A task force on 5G and artificial intelligence is to be launched shortly, and there are plans to hold a digital investment forum later this year. Our traditional exchanges within the joint working group on ICT have also continued, even as our business ties in the digital space has further intensified. The July summit also saw a joint declaration on resource efficiency and circular economy. We also have a clean energy and climate partnership dialogue launched in 2016. Engagements under the energy panel as well as water partnership have continued as well. These have distinct economic and trade opportunities which need to be leveraged. As you might be aware, we are now looking forward to a summit between Prime Minister of India and the heads of state or governments of the 27 EU member states, which is to be held in Portugal in May later this year. This will perhaps be the first time that the EU will be interacting in this format with the head of state or government of another country. Looking forward, the two sides are working towards a connectivity partnership and stronger cooperation on health to address the ongoing pandemic. Of course, other aspects of relationships, including cooperation on trade and investment, climate, energy, and human-centric digitalization, about which I have already referred to, will also be the focus of the outcomes of the summit. As our EAM has recently stated, we remain bullish about the India-EU partnership. I hope that significant outcomes provided by the upcoming Porto summit will give a significant boost to the India-EU strategic partnership, including in particular on trade. In the end, let me thank again the Phdcci for inviting me. I am confident that your deliberations today will be fruitful. We look forward to continuing engagement with you in areas of interest to further deepen and broaden India-EU business engagements. Thank you.
That was Our Excellency Mr. Santosh Jha, Ambassador of India to Belgium and Luxembourg and the European Union. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish to acknowledge the presence of Ms. Pooja Suri, who is our honorary member of the Managing Committee, and also a BJP spokesperson here, take 2 minutes, and also the presence of Sri Vikram Ghera, our co-chair of the International Committee on Europe and CIS. Thank you so much, sir, for joining, both of you. Also our Managing Committee members and former presidents who have joined us virtually. I'm sure they are engaging with the audience here and the speakers, and they're listening very intently because we as a chamber are very proactive on the international affairs. And we hope we have a trade and investment facilitation center also, where under the chief economist, Dr. S.P. Sharma, which is engaging with the overseas buyers, overseas businesses with our India counterparts here. Now, I may now like to invite Shri Sandeep Chakravarti, the Joint Secretary, EW, Ministry of External Affairs, Government of India, for his special address. May I request Mr. Sandeep Chakravarti to come on the platform, please?
Yes, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you very much. I hope you can hear and see me.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, and I'm delighted to attend and participate in this forum. And I've been hearing our ambassadors from EU who are there on stage. I've heard their views and comments, and I was also fortunate to hear our ambassador in Austria. And just now we heard our ambassador in the EU speaking about India's relations with the European Union and member states. I will restrict my comments to our relations with Europe West and the EU because I deal with Europe West and the EU and not with Eastern and Central Europe. And but we had the fortune of listening to several ambassadors from that region, so we have a fair idea of our relations with these countries. As far as Western Europe is concerned, it's very significant politically for India. We have two UNSC permanent members in this region, which are UK and France. Although Brexit has happened for us, UK still is a part of Europe, so we deal with both the UK and the EU member states. Then we have amongst the 10 countries that I deal with, we have four members of G7 and five G20 members, including the EU, and eight national nuclear supply group members. So I'm giving this data just to highlight the importance of the countries that we deal with. Also, very important as far as India's living bridge is concerned, we are sometimes oblivious to the presence of a large Indian diaspora in Europe, including in the UK. In the UK, we have about 1.6 million people of Indian origin. But in continental Europe also we have about 1 million people of Indian origin, with Netherlands having more than 200,000 people of Indian origin. So I think this is an aspect of our relationship which is very important, but sometimes it is neglected or not highlighted enough. EU is our largest trading partner, and even after Brexit, EU remains our largest trading partner, and also the second largest destination for Indian exports. Within the EU, of course, Germany is our largest trading partner, and between top 10 Indian global partners, 8 are in the EU. We also know that EU is one of our largest FDI investors, and amongst the top 10 FDI investors, we find EU countries. Netherlands, UK, France, Germany are our top investors, and even during the pandemic, we have seen that economic activity between India and Europe has taken place, and investment flows have happened. Even a small country like Luxembourg is very significant in the sense that it is one of the largest FII investors in India. And to my surprise, I found during when we were working on the India-Luxembourg virtual summit, we found that more than 3 lakh crores of foreign institutional investment comes in from Luxembourg. Just to highlight the financial sector importance of Europe, both within continental Europe and the city of London. So these are important sources of financing, whether it is FDI, FII, or even through the European Investment Bank. As you may be aware, the European Investment Bank is hugely involved in India's connectivity development, and several metros are being financed by the European Development Investment Banks. I will also like to just mention before I move on that during the pandemic, there was a great deal of what should I stalemate or setback to economic activity, to travel, to tourism. But if you notice, our engagement with Europe has gone ahead. Many of the virtual summits that were held by our Prime Minister were with Europe. It started with the India-EU summit, which Ambassador Mazumdar mentioned, which took place on 15th of July 2020. Then we had the virtual summit with Italy. We had with Netherlands. With Denmark, with Luxembourg. Recently, we had with Sweden. We are going to have one more with Finland. Then in the coming month with the Netherlands. So you see the active, engagement with Europe has happened during the pandemic, and it is only going to intensify. If you look at high-level exchanges during the year 2021, we have the G7 summit in UK, we have the G20 summit in Italy, we have COP26 in UK, we have, as Ambassador Jha mentioned, the India-EU Leaders Summit, which is an unprecedented event. It has never happened before. For the first time, India and the 27 European leaders will be meeting, and they will be discussing ways and means of deepening India-Europe cooperation. So, and also I think Ambassador Jha mentioned some of the deliverables. Just 2 days back, Vice President of the European Commission, Mr. Borrell, has written a blog on the Indo-Pacific. So if you look into the blog, you find a great deal of emphasis on Indo-Pacific. And when you talk of Indo-Pacific, India is central to the concept of Indo-Pacific. Three of the European countries have come out with their Indo-Pacific strategies or guidelines, namely France, Germany, and Netherlands. And if you study those guidelines or strategies, you find the importance, strategic, economic, from the geopolitical and the geoeconomic senses, the importance of India. And I think more and more we will see that in the coming months when the EU also is likely to come out with its Indo-Pacific strategy. And I think Mr. Borrell's blog is a precursor to that. If you get into it, he talks about the importance of developing partnerships in the Indo-Pacific, where India is an important partner, and he talks about connectivity. And as Ambassador Jha mentioned, we are negotiating a connectivity partnership with the EU. And when I talk of connectivity, it's a overarching broad theme where we want to connect, increase connectivity, not only on the people-to-people front, but also on trade, on technology, on investment, on private sector involvement. So in the coming months, I think you will see a great deal of activity as far as the India-Europe corridor is concerned. Today, as you know, Prime Minister of UK is going to announce their integrated review in Parliament, and you will see that also has a great deal of focus on India. And the UK is also coming out with its policy, which is known it's been called by many as a tilt towards Asia and tilt towards India. So again, from the policy point of view, a great deal of emphasis on India, on the Indo-Pacific, and the proof of the pudding is in the eating, and we are seeing a great deal of activity in terms of economic engagement between India and Europe. And two important points I want to make, because this is a Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and your members will be interested in trade and investment. We are discussing in great detail the possibility of resumption of the India-EU trade and investment agreements. As you know, they were suspended in 2013, but a great deal of effort is being made both by India and the EU in restarting the negotiations, and we are optimistic that when the leaders meet in Porto, we will be making certain announcements in this regard. Our technical teams are engaging on a daily basis, and a lot of ground has been covered, and we have conveyed in the high-level dialogue which took place between Honorable CIM and his counterpart, that India is open to discussing all issues, and we are very keen to look at a free trade agreement with the EU. Simultaneously and parallelly, we are also in great deal of not in great depth. We are discussing trade agreement with the UK. Post Brexit, we see a lot of opportunities for India in the UK because they find newfound flexibilities being out of the EU, and I think it's time, an opportune time to move on that. And their Secretary of State Elizabeth Truss was here a couple of weeks back, and she had very fruitful discussions with her counterpart, our Minister for Commerce and Industry, and they released a press note which was very encouraging. And in the coming months, we will have the visit of the UK Prime Minister, and we are optimistic of very positive announcements when that visit takes place. So all in all, I want to say that both with the EU as an institution and with member states, our economic engagement is growing. It is seeing increase in two-way trade. It is also seeing increase in two-way investments. Several ambassadors on stage mentioned how many Indian companies are present there, and similarly, Ambassador Mazumdar mentioned how many Austrian companies are present in India. So I think EU is a very strong economic partner of India. And as far as Government of India is concerned, we are looking at EU with encouragement, with optimism. And I think during the year, you will find a lot of positive developments as far as India-Europe relations are concerned. So all in all, this is what I want to convey, and I want to thank the PhD Chamber for organizing this event and bringing together so many envoys of both India abroad and foreign EU member states here in Delhi, and we have a continuous engagement with our ambassadors both abroad and in India, and sometimes I feel that foreign ambassadors are our closest allies, and we use or utilize their presence here to convey our messages to foreign governments. So I want to thank them for their participation here, and we look forward to a very exciting year as far as India-Europe and India-EU relations are concerned. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandeep ji. Thank you very much for your detailed remarks and your candid approach towards the European Union and Indian relations. You have given out a plethora of activities which have already happened in the past and the future activities. And I would, on behalf of the PhD Chamber and on my own, I would like to request you and state that PhD Chamber would like to be a part of those events since the Honorable CIM has already integrated us along with the other Apex chambers to be a part of all these activities. Now, I would now like to thank you all, and I would like to invite our co-chair of the International Affairs Committee for Europe and CIS, PhD Chamber, Sri Vikram Gera, to deliver his formal vote of thanks. Mr. Gera, please.
Good evening all. On behalf of PhD Chamber, I would like to express my sincere thanks to ambassadors and high commissioners of the EU and CIS region and Indian ambassadors of India to US and CIS countries for addressing and enlightening us on the plethora of opportunities present between India and EU and the CIS. I'm also grateful to Mr. Sandeep Chakravarti, Joint Secretary, Europe West, Ministry of External Affairs, Government of India, for giving the government's perspective on the substantial potential for bilateral cooperation between India and Europe. I'm sure I speak for all present that it was indeed a very enlightening session. As already mentioned by our speakers, today's session will give us an overview on economic relations between India, European and CIS countries, our deliberation on issues and challenges of doing business in both India and Europe have also been very stimulating. I'm confident that our participants would have found the session very useful, and I hope that this endeavor of ours will foster economic cooperation between India and Europe. I now request all the present to carry this vote of thanks with acclamation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Gera. Thank you so much. I would be failing in my duties if I do not mention the august presence of the young budding entrepreneurs from IITF and GIMS who have spared their time and they have come here. They are the future entrepreneurs of the country. And I'm sure you are carrying with yourself a lot of research and a lot of good things that our excellencies have spoken today. And I'm sure you will be emulating these in your future adventures and future projects which you would like to take on in the future. And PhD chamber would really be opening the doors for you to come and visit our other programs which we are going to take place. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, young budding future entrepreneurs and future of the country. I would now like to thank each one of you that the session would have contributed, as Mr. Vikram Gera had already pointed out, a very, very good opportunity for all the MSMEs who are virtually attached with us and listening to us, all the participants, our managing committee members, especially the MSMEs who are keen to now progress their association with the European Union and CIS. With these words, I would like to bid farewell and thank you to each one of you for having spared your valuable time and come here, especially excellencies who have physically made it a point to visit PhD chamber and grace the occasion. Thank you so much, excellencies, and thank you all the dignitaries who are virtually present with us and who have been there till the end. I think Mrs. Shipra Ghosh could not join us because of some technical glitch. Are you there, Ms. Shipra Ghosh? Can I invite you for your remarks if you are there? Has my colleagues checked up from them, from Ms. Shipra? Is she available? Okay, okay. So thank you so much. Thank you each one for having joined us. We have a plethora of events tomorrow and day after. As you know, the PhD International Week is going on till the 19th of March. So tomorrow is the 17th of March. We are going to have the India Americas Day, the Indian Business Talk tomorrow from 11 a.m. onwards, and thereafter in the session 2 we have again the India Americans Day, which will be moderated by our colleagues. It will start from 1400 hours till about 1530 hours tomorrow. So see you again tomorrow, and may I now request all our excellencies and all our dignitaries to kindly stay here for a group photograph. And I'll request the diplomatic corps to also come and join us. And may I request my colleagues who have put in so much of hard work for getting this act together of the International Week to also join on the dais for a group photograph.
Are you seeking a better life for yourself and your family and planning to immigrate? Do you want to send your children abroad for higher education and save up